Hello and welcome to Panoramic Edition, where we discuss national, regional and international developments in depth. This year, the Kingdom of Bahrain and Malaysia celebrate the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Outstanding mutual relations and continuous cooperation in various fields were highly supported by the two countries' leaderships of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, King of Malaysia, throughout the past 50 years. To talk more about that, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by His Excellency the Ambassador of Malaysia to Bahrain, Mr. Shazryll bin Zahiran. Right after this. Welcome back. We are pleased to be joined here in the studio by His Excellency the Ambassador of Malaysia to Bahrain, Mr. Shazryll bin Zahiran. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for having me today.
Yes.
I'm very glad and deeply honored that I have the opportunity to begin the year with this interview with Bahrain TV.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I mean, we are honored to have you here, and congratulations to you as the Kingdom of Bahrain and Malaysia actually celebrate their 50th anniversary of establishing their diplomatic relations. That's a big milestone. Can you tell us a little bit more about the history of these relations? What were the stages that they were developed in?
Well, basically, the relationship between Malaysia and Bahrain started way back in 1974. We immediately had an exchange of diplomatic communication. So Malaysia became one, I would say, the first country in the ASEAN and developed this relationship of diplomatic relations with Bahrain. And it is something that we take pride of. Yeah. And definitely, looking back into the history of our relation, we wanted to really put across this historical moment, and we celebrated it together in Bahrain as well as in Malaysia. Yeah. So it is something prominently we wanted to showcase how affectionate and how strong relations between these two countries are. And it is also something significant for us, especially last year, where we also observed the occasion of the Silver Jubilee of His Majesty King Hamad. So it is very apt that the 50th anniversary of relation happened during the Silver Jubilee of the reign of His Majesty. And it is also another momentous occasion for us because last year we also had the opportunity of the installation of our new king, His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, who is also a very good friend, a strong brotherly relation between these two individuals, the two kings of Bahrain and Malaysia. So it is something very momentous for us.
Absolutely. When we look at the history of the relationship between the two countries, we see that it has always spread from brotherly relations to economy, to healthcare, to education. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that relationship bolster?
Well, I believe all these things started as in the late 90s, as we started to become much more formidable. In the case of Malaysia, in terms of economy, we started to penetrate further into the establishment of the world economy, and we saw the opportunity in Bahrain. And immediately we sought into establishment of our embassy here back in 2003. And from then on, we look into the expansion of our relations. We started off from the political, and immediately after that, we look into the economic development programs in Bahrain. And if you were to look into the past, you would see how much we have contributed to a certain extent in Bahrain's economic development, particularly with the construction of the Bahrain International Circuit, which Malaysia was one of the main contractors together with a local Bahraini company, Sebarco. And further on, we also had the opportunity to be part of the construction of the Bahrain City Center, as well as the bridge linking Manama and Sitra. That's on the construction and development sector. Beyond that, we also have quite a number of Malaysians who had come aboard in support of Bahrain's development program in terms of hospitality as well as other services. Majority of our Malaysians here in Bahrain definitely in the specialized sectors, namely in the medical and health. There are quite a number of people in the nursing sector. We also have people in the government sector as architects, as engineers, contributing much into the forward move of Bahrain in its development agenda. And we also have some other companies from Malaysia who established their company here in Bahrain in the, how can I put this, more on the progression part of the construction, which is very niche, which is in the tensioning of concrete. And also we have another entity that looks into sustainable development and also renewable energy. We also have companies that are looking into the food industry. And inshallah, if during my time here I can see greater progress, especially now we have companies are looking into moving into the construction of certain plants in Bahrain in the coming times.
That's amazing to hear and to see the flourishment of the community, the Malaysian community in Bahrain, and Bahrain being a hub for everybody. How do you value the keen interest, not only of the people of Bahrain and Malaysia, but specifically the leadership of the two countries to bolster these relations?
Well, you see, one thing for sure, the definite point of our presence here in Bahrain is to strengthen relations. It's not only at the leadership level, but also from people-to-people interaction. In the past, the strength of relation was, I would say, assisted because we had a very strong connectivity by Gulf Air flying into Malaysia. But unfortunately, he has temporarily ceased its operation to Malaysia. But inshallah soon, we hope that it will be resumed. But nonetheless, in the past, we have seen quite a number of high-level visits, particularly, I would say, having His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa making his inaugural visit to Malaysia back in 2017. That itself actually opened up a huge opportunity of relations, strengthening relations between Malaysia and Bahrain, where we had seen several MOUs has been signed in terms of economy, in terms of agreements of guaranteeing of investment, and also in the area of Islamic banking, food industry, medical health, and beyond. And furtherance to that, last year we also had the opportunity again to have His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa at the installation of our King, Sultan Ibrahim, where it was a very momentous occasion for us, having only two monarchs been invited to Malaysia. One of them is His Majesty King Hamad himself, where we had the opportunity to receive him and hosted him in Malaysia, and they had some bilateral discussion between the leadership of His Majesty and my King, and also with our Prime Minister. And certain elements of discussion was put in place, looking forward now is in food security, looking into the IT development and engagement. As we know, the world has now started to become much more challenging, and also connectivity in terms of relations in area of specific interest for both countries, particularly on health matters and also tourism. So basically sharing this sentiment of tourism, connectivity is one of the important elements that we need to encourage between both countries, and we are working strongly in that context. Another area that we're looking at is renewable energy, which is something I have to say in the Middle East or even in GCC, Bahrain is pioneering this strongly, and we are truly encouraged to see how the progress had taken place for the past couple of years, and it has been very quick, I have to say. Now we have to chase of Bahrain in that context. So we really appreciate this, and I believe this is one of the sectors that we will be focusing in the coming times.
Yes, definitely. Mr. Ambassador, when we look at all of these kind of exchanges, how important is it to exchange these expertise, especially with Malaysia being an expert in a lot of fields, namely, as you've mentioned, food security, education, and so on? How important is it to have this kind of exchange for the relationship of the countries?
Riding on the present spirit of Malaysia under the leadership of the 10th Prime Minister, the Honourable Anwar Ibrahim, definitely under the scheme of thought and the strategy under Malaysia Banani, which is inspired by the meaning of togetherness and sustainability for the people and also for the world. We believe that whatever efforts that is being put in place by Bahrain is actually jives well with the idea and the thoughts of our Prime Minister. And this link of engagement and values that Bahrain's leadership carries does actually allows Malaysia to really find ways and means to link this in terms of whatever abilities and expertise that we have back home. What we see how Malaysia is now is that, especially post-COVID, we had a lot of difficulty, especially during COVID, as the economic had really impacted us very badly. And it took us slightly longer compared to other countries to make a comeback. So by having the new inspired desire by the new leadership of Malaysia, we foresee that there's a remarkable area of opportunities that Malaysia can contribute. And definitely in the context of Bahrain, looking at how the Bahrain economic vision for 2030 has been laid about by the leadership of Bahrain, it really have quite a number of areas and aligned to what we want to do. So that makes us able enough to see some areas that we can share and contribute both sides. And we are looking forward for this in the coming times, especially now with Malaysia being the chair of ASEAN, that allows us to work together, not only as Malaysia, but ASEAN as a whole. And I have to recognize in the context of Bahrain, because Bahrain is in actual fact the first country in GCC to become a member of the TAC under ASEAN. And then it's also they are the third country in the Middle East or in the Arab world to become part of the TAC. And also significant, I have to say, in the context of Bahrain, they had hosted twice the ASEAN GCC summit. Definitely that we look forward, especially now that Malaysia is the current chair of ASEAN, we will be hosting the next ASEAN GCC summit in Malaysia. And I hope that we will be able to see the presence of Bahrain's leadership and also the new ideas in the context of sustainable development and contributing towards the bigger economic frontier of ASEAN GCC engagement.
Absolutely looking forward to that, especially as you have mentioned with all of the progressions and challenges that are facing the world and being united in front of them. There's a lot to celebrate, and the 50-year anniversary between the two countries' diplomatic relations is one of them. Can you tell us a bit about the embassy's celebration plans for the occasion?
Well, we had done quite a number of programs in 2024, basically. We started off by having the first ever showcase of Malaysian movies, which give inspiring messages in terms of humanistic part of Malaysia, not only in terms of economic relations, but from the human relations. At the same time, we'll also look into the solidarity of friendship through the game of football, which is also part of the movie, and also something that is uniquely Malaysian, which is an first ever animated movie from Malaysia, which has been shown in Bahrain. So these 3 movies was very inspiring. We got a lot of very positive feedback from not only from the locals but for the international viewers who joined us for this occasion. And beyond that, we also had several other engagement with the Bahrain Autism Authority here. We had programs with the special people in Bahrain. And we felt that it is much more inspiring to have them on board in celebrating this, because we feel that sometimes it's not only what we do publicly, but it's also to the other people who may not have the chance to see what we do as diplomats. So we had programs with them. We had also a program with the Bahrain Association of Family. We had a very good program with them, with the kids, the family members, and one significant program that we showcased was the montage that we officiated in November at the Bahrain Water Garden. We had the President of Minister of Information. Thank you very much. I know that he's just came into office, but he made his way to be with us to celebrate this historical occasion. And it's also in cooperation with the Capital Governorate. Thank you very much to the Governor himself, Sheikh Rashid, and also his colleagues from the Capital Governorate, who has been very instrumental in helping us to really see this across, and the private sector who, I would say, acknowledging this relationship, also put up the colors of Malaysia and Bahrain on their building, like Amakin. They had this LED coverage of the relationship. It was something historical. It's never been done for Malaysia, especially in Bahrain. And similarly, to reciprocate, Malaysia did the same in Kuala Lumpur. So I have to say that one thing that is strong is that not only at the people-to-people relation and the government of Bahrain and Malaysia, but this is how diplomats or diplomatic relation works. And I have to give recognition to your ambassador, His Excellency Dr. Walid, who is the first Bahrain ambassador to Malaysia, despite he has just arrived in Malaysia earlier last year, 2024. He had really pushed things forward to really showcase what the strength of relation Malaysia and Bahrain has. And the celebration not only had the montage itself of the celebration, but also we showcase our traditional dances, which is very unique. Normally we will have our Malaysians to do it, but we managed to get some individuals or students to do this. This is very unique for us. And finally, to conclude, we had the Malaysia Fair in cooperation with Oasis Mall in Juve. We managed to bring in about 15 over companies from Malaysia to showcase products from Malaysia, and which I have to say this is very uniquely special, because what the idea of this bringing to Malaysia is not only to showcase what Malaysia can offer, but to showcase the strength of Malaysia's economy, because these 15 companies that was brought in was carefully selected because they are the stories of high achievers of the small medium industry who has made a mark internationally. So we thought that this is the best to showcase them, because they are strong in the eastern part of the world, but now we are moving them towards the west, the Middle Eastern market. So they were very, very excited. That was the first time for them coming to Bahrain, and they were overwhelmed by the warmth, by the acceptance to the new products that Malaysia has to offer, and this was an encouragement for them. And this had resonated very, very well in Malaysia. and definitely you will see more of these events and Malaysians coming into Bahrain in the coming times.
Very well looking forward to that, especially that this is a valuable way of exchanging cultures, and that's really what diplomatic work is dedicated to
Yes.
introduce cultures and the country's initial ideas to each other, and to make the world a little bit smaller than it actually is.
Yes.
How important is it to have that kind of level of programs on the cultural level between the people?
You know, as what Bahrain has been doing for the past couple of years in promoting peaceful coexistence, it is similarly what Malaysia inspires to do for many years. There's a need to understand the differences of the cultures, the values of different religion, different society, different country. And as diplomats, in the diplomatic term, this is approached as one of the tools in bridging these relations. That's why it is important for us to showcase that in this context. You can see many countries are doing the same, because as the information highway starts to become much more accessible by many, people start to travel, but unfortunately people do not understand certain differences and what to be expected once they step foot into that country. So by having programs in this country, it is sort of a preliminary eye-opener of what to be expected when they started to venture into or move or even to travel to another country. So in the context of what we do in the diplomatic world is that this is the means of us reaching out to create an understanding on how we can value what other countries can contribute towards peaceful coexistence. And this is what I believe Bahrain is taking a very strong lead role in this context. And in terms of Malaysia, we are also working very hard into this, and we have been promoting this for past many years. As you know, Malaysia is a very diversified country. We have the Malays, we have the Chinese, we have the Indians, as well as other religions and races in Malaysia. And we also have different languages. When you have different languages, different society, we have different cultural background. So this is where the values that we start to encourage and understanding even at the very young age in Malaysia, and that makes us able to live harmoniously in Malaysia. So that spirit and what Bahrain inspires to share with the world jives very well. And this is where, when it comes to understanding between Malaysia and Bahrain, we see ourselves like brothers and sisters immediately.
It's very natural.
Very natural. Even for me, when I arrived in Bahrain, it was an immediate love at first sight, I have to say, not only for me, but also for my family. It's very easy for us to simply be accepted to the society very easily. There's no barriers at all. We attended many programs, be it private or even within the community. It's like we are back home.
And having that kind of cultural sensitivity and putting it within reach for people who want to visit Malaysia or who want to come to Bahrain makes it easier to make the decision to actually take that leap.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you very much, Shazryl.
Mr. Ambassador, recently the Embassy of Bahrain in Malaysia hosted a reception to celebrate Bahrain's National Day and the 50th anniversary also of the mutual diplomatic relations. The event featured the traditional Jalwa performance by Bahraini students and a performance by the Central Band of the Royal Malay Regiment. What can you tell us about the significance of that kind of cultural aspect?
You see, as what we had done here, similarly, we also had as I mentioned, when we had the occasion on showcasing our video of relations between Malaysia and Bahrain, we had the similar opportunity to have the Malaysian traditional dance being introduced here on the shores of Bahrain. And it really was well accepted, and it is something unique. Similarly, in Malaysia, when you had the Jawa dance, it was something very new. We have never seen that, and it was an excitement by many. And I was told by my colleagues who was present at the reception in Malaysia, they were very, very, into this new dance that they've never seen before. It was so nice. So it is something that we feel that it showcased the depth of traditions and we have never seen before. And more naturally as well, as I mentioned earlier, having this occasion of the 50th anniversary is it more historical because it gives much more impactful feeling and appreciation that the growth of relation had strengthened beyond simply at the political level or economic level, but more of understanding the relationship between people to people. And I appreciate what His Excellency Ambassador Walid had done in Malaysia. And even here when we had the Bahrain band, Bahrain police band, who had the opportunity to also play at our National Day. They even played some of our traditional songs. And I was surprised. And I congratulated the conductor who actually came about with the songs. And definitely, even the audience and the people who came for our National Day celebration, they were like, this brings a lot of memories, especially for Malaysians. They have not heard the song for quite some time. And while for the international invitees of ours, they were also appreciative, something that I've never heard some of the Malaysian songs. So it's very, very nice.
It is very nice. I mean, staying away a little bit from numbers and figures, it's really the history of people and cultures that create that bond. I mean, when you talk about the Jalwa dance, when you talk about the Malaysian dance, the songs and everything, the history that lays behind that, the story behind that is what makes the people so attached to their culture. And the history sometimes is shared. I mean, you've mentioned a couple of people. You've mentioned Dr. Walid Al-Mana, who is also a big part of, as you've mentioned, the COVID era and everything. So that experience being brought, this is part of the background story, this is part of the history. How important is it to value that kind of history, the shared history between the countries?
You know, I keep on telling this, Malaysia's history as a trading nation had opened the doors and our shores to the international community back as early as the 16th or 15th century. So that had made us, I would say, much more able enough to be receptive to the differences of culture. Similarly in Bahrain, you were also a trading nation, so your shores actually was receiving a number of international traders on your shores. So that had, in a way, opened a greater understanding of the differences that different people, different society, different background carries. And with those historical elements that is shared between Malaysia and Bahrain, give us the strength, give us a greater understanding how much valuable to have a peaceful coexistence and understanding of relation between countries. And the leadership between Malaysia and Bahrain that really put this up front and center, apart from economic and sustainable economic development, is beyond words, especially now when the region itself is facing a lot of issues in terms of having a peaceful Middle Eastern, apart from the present conflict that we are facing right now. We feel that this is necessary for us to become champions in this. And Malaysia has done significantly very well, and I believe this value that also being carried by Bahrain will also be much more significant in the coming times, because your leadership under the reign of His Majesty himself had really put this across repeatedly. And similarly, in the context of Malaysia, we have done this very much. And that's why I said in the context of the new Prime Minister, when he mentioned about the concept of Malaysia Madani, which runs on the values of the 6 values: safe, connectivity, respect, innovation, prosperity. This is where the values of understanding that is being carried under the Malaysia Madani. Again, I would repeat, sustainability, care, respect, innovation, prosperity and trust.
Yeah.
So these values is carried not only for Malaysia, but I believe similarly in Bahrain.
Yeah.
Because in order for us to become progressive, we must be sustainable and progressive, not only as a country, but from the humanistic effect.
Absolutely.
So this carries beyond borders.
Yes.
And what we see, what Bahrain has done is there. You are there on the right track, and we want to be together with you in this.
Mr. Ambassador, you yourself have your own history with the Kingdom of Bahrain. You've been here since 2021. Since the start of your assignment, what have been the greatest developments and launch initiatives at the Malaysian Embassy in terms of consolidating these kind of bilateral relations? And are there any future plans to enhance them in different fields?
Well, let me put this in a much more, I would say, timeline for me.
Yeah.
I came here at the height of COVID. When I left the country, we were still on lockdown. I'm a part of the 18 ambassadors which has been deployed in 2021. So we are termed as the COVID ambassadors. So for us, when we immediately land, and in context of, for me in Malaysia, landing myself in Bahrain, having to see Bahrain had never closed its border during COVID is something that I have to put my hats off to Bahrain's leadership and how it managed the scourge of COVID back then. And we were struggling, and it took some time for us to open our borders. We only opened our borders economically as well in 2022, middle of 2022. So it took me some time to work the plan on how I can re-establish this connection of economy between Malaysia and Bahrain. Yeah. It's very unfortunate as we had completed our economic development, not completed, I would say completed our projects back in 2015. Many of our move in the economic development of Bahrain had reduced. Yeah. And to bring back an understanding about the changes that had taken place since then, it took me some time. So I had to do a lot of engagement with my captains of industries in Malaysia, and also to encourage captain of industries of Bahrain themselves to see what Malaysia can offer to them. And I had to attribute my engagement of relation and understanding about what Bahrain had accomplished over the past years with my association with the ASEAN Bahrain Council, led by His Excellency Shazryll H.E. himself, who had really given me an understanding on how things are done in Bahrain. Similarly with the Economic Development Board of Bahrain, and also the other leadership and ministries of Bahrain and ministers of Bahrain. And that gave me a lot of inputs for me to raise this matter up with my stakeholders in Malaysia. That had allowed me also to work my plans for 23 to 2024, which you had seen when we had the celebration of our 50th anniversary. We immediately had this Malaysia Fair to bring about some of our products into Bahrain. In between that, I have to say, due to this valued exchange of ideas, and also communication, the open door communication that not only for myself but also through the business-to-business interactions. We have seen progress in terms of trade between Malaysia and Bahrain. Especially for last year, we can see a significant increase in terms of the export from Bahrain to Malaysia. Similarly, of export from Malaysia to Bahrain. Although the numbers in terms of the whole structure of economic trade balance is still negligible in terms of world economy, but Bahrain is still a strong economic partner for Malaysia. So it shows that Bahrain has stepped up its economic development or programs with Malaysia. Similarly for Malaysia in Bahrain as well. And I have seen a number of individuals or companies who had made their way through the strong engagement that the embassy had with our private sector, with our business society in Malaysia. We have seen them coming about either individually or even by groups coming into Bahrain, and they have met with several entities in Bahrain. And definitely we will see more in the coming times, inshallah, especially as I mentioned, when with the support of through Bahrain TV as well as other media, where you actually come about with positive reports of the programs that the embassy had done and also the Bahraini embassy had done in Malaysia. That creates a much more, I would say, encouragement and promotion in terms of greater understanding of what Bahrain can offer and what Malaysia can offer to Bahrain.
Definitely. I mean, doing these kind of programs and having this platform gives us an opportunity to even showcase and be transparent about everything in the developments that are happening. I mean, as you've mentioned, it's a recovery way now after COVID and all the challenges that are coming, but it is on the way. So that's a positive thing. What can you tell us about the Malaysian community here in the Kingdom? What are I mean, you've mentioned a little bit about what jobs they are in. You've mentioned the healthcare. You've mentioned also construction, everything. But how are they faring here in Bahrain?
Well, they have. Okay, let me put it in also in a very nice, proper context.
Yeah.
In the context of Malaysia, we always export expertise. That's why when you see the number of Malaysians here is not at a big number. We normally, in the context of Bahrain, what we have here is experts in, I would say professionals in engineering, architecturing, hospitality, healthcare. At the same time, we also have companies here, and majority of them, I have to say I'm happy to report and to share with you, many of them have stayed more than 16 years here. And they value the contribution that they can share with Bahrain in terms of their expertise, and they have grown fondness of Bahrain. And now they find it difficult for them to leave the kingdom if their services is no more required. But I keep on telling them there's always other opportunities in Bahrain that they should explore. Because as you can see how Bahrain is progressively developing, and this allows them an opportunity to even penetrate into different sectors that they have been engaged before, but the other areas that probably they will be able to contribute. And some of them came here as bachelors. Now they have grown families here. And they feel very comfortable here in Bahrain, as I mentioned. Even for me, you know, being an ambassador or as a diplomat, you know, once you step foot here, it's very difficult for us to leave, and for them as well. And I encourage them to continuously be positive in terms of sharing the positive values of as a Malaysian here, be part of the society, and which they have done successfully. And I hope that this advice that I have given to them will continue to be part of them in times to come. And I believe they have not only become sort of part of society, but they become part of the Bahrainian family as well.
Yeah,
and this is, I believe, that they really value very much. And for me as an ambassador, I take pride when I see smiling faces, happiness of my fellow Malaysians here who have never had any problems as well. And especially during the COVID period where they felt they were very, very well protected and well taken care of by the government of Bahrain. And I thank you, the people of Bahrain, especially the government of Bahrain, for taking care of them very well during those trying times.
So that's amazing to hear. Bahrain, just not to simplify the word, but in every single meaning, is home to a lot of people.
Very, very true.
Yes. Now, before we go towards the end of the show, how do you value this kind of, I mean, you've talked a little bit about the coexistence, the tolerance of Bahrain on a regional and global level, but also on a humanitarian level. I mean, there are small examples. You've mentioned COVID several times, and that's one of the big examples because it has happened recently. The availability of vaccines, of healthcare, of work, the borders were kept open. How important, or how do you value Bahrain and its people striving in order to provide this for their community?
You know, I have to say, in terms of how the leadership of Bahrain foresee the country, makes it much more significant, and I would say something that addresses the needs of the country. And naturally, being an island is always difficult, especially when you have to sustain a community on an island as such, where you have high dependency on things that where your neighboring countries needs to come in support to you. But with the aspiration carried by the leadership of Bahrain, you can see how they strategically put the programs in terms of development and sustainability of the people as well as the economy of Bahrain. And you know, being here for the past almost 4 years, even in a very short period, I can see how things have developed in terms of your strategic move, in terms of the programs that you have done, and how internationally Bahrain has been recognized. And I have to take this opportunity. I think it's still not very late for me to take this opportunity to even congratulate Bahrain on your significant win of the Arab Gulf Cup, which is very something that I myself was equally excited, and also for the many achievements that the leadership, which taken up by His Highness Sheikh Nasir himself, who had won 2 Endurance Cup. That is something inspiring. And beyond that, how the leadership of Bahrain had taken up to become the champions of the constructors of Formula One. Those are significant achievements of a country. And you have also begin to see things in the context of the Olympics, with winning 4 golds. In the realm of environmental sustainable program, which is being recognized by the United Nations. In terms of peaceful coexistence, you had brought in the Pope to really make notice of what is the importance of coexistence in the terms of Middle Eastern understanding. You've been hosting the Manama Dialogue for umpteen years. So these are the things that really put Bahrain there, put you on the top in many ways on encouraging people the values of strength, the value of understanding, the value of development. At the same time, you know, you ensure that the tradition of the country stays intact. and that makes uniquely Bahrain. And for me, I really appreciate this very much. That makes my work here significantly, I would say, simple, not very stressful in terms of having this bridge of understanding between Malaysia and Bahrain. But what for me, I believe what is more important for Malaysia right now and also for Bahrain itself is to not only value the relationship but also now to move towards much more progressive economic development, which I believe Bahrain can really be a significant player in the coming times. And Malaysia is ready at any time to be your partner in this context.
Actually, that would be my next thing. And before, this is our final question for today. And of course, having this testimony from you, an esteemed diplomat, an esteemed professional within your own field, is a big compliment. From your point of view, Mr. Ambassador, now at the end of the show, just tell us a little bit about the upcoming cooperations that you would like to see between the Kingdom of Bahrain and Malaysia.
Well, it's probably too early for me to line up things for you, but what I foresee is that as Malaysia now is the chair of ASEAN, we really look forward in our chairmanship as we further drive our, I would say, expectation under the theme of inclusivity and also sustainability under the theme of the Malaysian chairmanship of ASEAN this year. We want to bring the strength of ASEAN not only within its community but also in the GCC. So looking forward in our engagement as the chair, we want to have a successful hosting of the ASEAN GCC in Malaysia. And we believe the idea of strengthening economic relations, peaceful coexistence, peace in the region, and tolerance in the community, as well as sharing a much more prosperous economic development programs with the GCC countries, is something that we aspire to do. And having Bahrain, again, I have to repeat Bahrain had taken a lot of leadership in terms of its ASEAN engagement. Again, I want to repeat, you were the first among the GCC to sign the TAC. You were the third among the Arab states. You hosted 2 ASEAN GCC summits in Bahrain. Now we want to reciprocate to have you in Malaysia under the ASEAN GCC summit, and having that role in mind. And also there's also the initiative which Bahrain had undertaken in the Arab League to strengthen relations with ASEAN. So definitely there's a lot of elements that needs to be worked through in progression of these programs with ASEAN and GCC. And bilaterally, this will work as we progressively look into the plannings of the programs that we have for the year. I have to work very closely as well with your ambassador in Malaysia, because I have a very good engagement with him before he departed from Malaysia, and continuously we have been I would say consulting each other to work out programs. And both ministries of foreign affairs of Bahrain and Malaysia are also planning a lot of programs to strengthen relations politically, and we want to find ways and means to have more conducive environment in terms of economic relations. I don't want to run through several of the MOUs that we have in plan. It would be very technical. I would rather put it in a context that there are programs that has been planned for the year, so that we will have much more progressive economic and political relations, and taking advantage of the relationship that His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Khalifa has with our King, His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim. That itself will become the drive to further strengthen the relations between Malaysia and Bahrain.
That's amazing, and we're looking forward to another lifetime of relationships.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for being with us and for answering our questions today.
Thank you very much. I believe also it's not late for me to wish Bahrain Happy New Year. And I pray for Bahrain and the people of Bahrain under the leadership and reign of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Khalifa, and also under the premiership of His Royal Highness and Crown Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, for stronger, progressive and prosper Bahrain, and for you to have a much more greater development in year 2025.
Inshallah, for Malaysia as well.
And to you too, to Bahrain TV, may you continue to be successful and to share more opportunities of progression or progress of Bahrain with the community, domestically as well internationally.
Looking forward to doing that. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
This 50th anniversary of diplomatic relation marks a historic milestone for the Kingdom of Bahrain and Malaysia, providing an opportunity to reaffirm their shared pride in the growth of their close political, economic, and cooperative partnership. Both countries are determined to further expand these ties to bring greater prosperity to their people and to strengthen their pivotal role in promoting security, peace, and sustainable development at both regional and international levels. Thank you for watching, and see you next week in another episode of Panoramic Edition.